All right, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where usually, if it's not Monday, we review what happened yesterday and see what went well, what didn't go well, and then we kind of do a walkthrough of the slate, just kind of see how we're feeling about guys that we like, guys that we don't like as much, and then later today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, we do the pre-lock show, and that's when we actually dig into what we're actually going to implement on this slate. So we'll increase exposure to guys, lower exposure, and then you'll be able to see how I'm actually using the DS, the Domination Station, DFS Army's Optimizer on this slate. So yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in. Yesterday was a little crazy for NFL. It was weird. I had a ton of Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Cousins. Like I really got my quarterbacks right, but my running backs were solid. I had a lot of Derrick Henry. I had some CMC, but I didn't have that one guy who really went off. And then when it came to the wide receiver position, I was right for a lot of the top guys, but I had way too much Amon-Ra. So interesting slate for sure. But let's dig in. Oh, we also had a ton of winners too. I know Ghostface Killa had a nice win. I can't name everyone because people get, like, believe it or not, guys, like people get pretty upset with me when I don't mention their name when they have a win. So I'm going, like, I don't pay as much attention to like all the NFL wins. So I'm not going to name everyone who did well. But congrats to the guys that did. Thomas, good to see you in here, man. Alex Kanger, good to see you, man. Don Juan patiently waiting. I was on time, but thanks, man. Always appreciate you showing up too. And yeah, Thomas, Swift failed us. Yeah, Swift was a big L yesterday. Big L. I feel like there might have been some more, but I don't remember. But guys, let's dig into this slate. It's a nice 7-gamer, nothing too crazy. There's a decent amount of injury news, but nothing out of the ordinary. So honestly, just a solid slate. Like I think we'll have a lot of these like decently sized slates for the next few days. Well, really for the rest of the month. Thomas said didn't have the best NFL day, but NBA is where the money's at. Let's get it. Hey, I agree with you, man. Let's do it. All right, we'll start off with this Nets and Wizards game. There is some injury news we need to talk about with this game. The list is a little long, so I had to take a little bit of a breather. Kevin Durant is not on the injury report, so that's good. Kyrie Irving, not on the injury report, so that's good. Ben Simmons, not on the injury report, so that's good. Nick Claxton is questionable, so that's huge. Royce O'Neal is out, that's huge. Joe Harris, Seth Curry, TJ Warren, not on the injury report. So really interesting from the sides of the Nets. They're missing Nick Claxton and Royce O'Neal. Well, Nick Claxton's questionable. If Nick Claxton is out, that's a boost for Ben Simmons. You guys might forget, but we were paying like $7,100, $7,200 for Ben Simmons for a little while there. We don't know if he's going to be on a minutes limit or anything of that sort, so that's concerning and might limit his upside some. So definitely want to keep a good eye on that. But if Claxton's out, I'm definitely more interested in him. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, I'm seeing as more like Kevin Durant is a strong play today, definitely against the Wizards, so not a great defensive team. Kyrie Irving, I'm viewing as more of a GPP play tonight. So yeah, that's the Nets for me. For the Wizards, we have Monty Morris questionable. Will Barton appears to be healthy. Anthony Gill has been questionable. Bradley Beal is out. Roy Hachimura is out. Delon Wright is out. Now, the Wizards are interesting because Deni Avdija has been popping in the DS for like multiple slates in a row. And oddly enough, I feel semi-comfortable with him in my lineups now, which is something I don't think I've ever felt in regards to having Deni Avdija. But he's been averaging 36.9 minutes in the last 7 games since Bill has been out. So he's really had a more consistent minutes floor, and his price hasn't moved. He's still 4,900, which is way too cheap for him at this point. So very odd, but willing to eat the chalk here if he's going to be that popular. It just makes sense. We can also look at Goodwin. He's been crushing it with Beal out. So definitely an interesting play for sure. But the guys who lead this team are Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis with Beal out. The Nets have been better defensively, but I'm totally fine taking some GPP shots on Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma like we've been doing for the last few slates here. So no surprises. The matchup isn't great. So if as the day goes on, we get more injury news and there's better spots, then I wouldn't hate pivoting off of Kuzma and Porzingis, to be honest. But they do have that 30% usage rate that I'm looking for with Beal out. So definitely still interesting plays. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone here. The rest of these guys, I'm just going to let the domination station decide what it wants to do with them, at least for now. All right, guys. This next game is an interesting one as well. We have the Miami Heat against the Indiana Pacers. The Heat always have a very long injury report list, but Jimmy Butler is probable. Tyler Hero is probable. Max Strus is probable. Victor Oladipo is probable. Gabe Vincent is out. Duncan Robinson is probable. Dwayne Dedmon is questionable. And Omar Yurtseven is still out. Oddly enough, the Pacers have allowed the third most points in the paint this season, with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler being the two guys on the Miami Heat who lead the team in scoring in the paint. So definitely a plus matchup for Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. They're not really priced insanely. So these are two guys that I'm keeping a good, that I really want to focus on as I'm doing research throughout the day as potential leverage plays for me. The Pacers don't have a ton of injuries today. They have Daniel T still out, Chris Duarte still out. The Miami Heat they're a really, really good defensive team. So that's important. You don't like to target guys against the Miami Heat, but it doesn't mean that we take all of them out of our player pool. It's just something we need to be cognizant of. But the Miami Heat have allowed the third most threes per game this season. So the teams that are facing Miami, they're struggling like offensively, but they're making threes. Oddly enough, it's actually Buddy Hield who leads the Pacers with the most threes. So he's a very interesting GPP play. He's very shot dependent, so not someone that I would trust in cash per se, but interesting. Tyrese Halliburton, again, tough matchup, but he also shoots the three pretty well when he's getting hot, and he's an elite scorer. So he's always someone that I'm open to having exposure to. But if he's going to be super popular, around like 16%, he's a potential fade for me. Army Man asked, is Victor Z back? He's probable. Victor Oladipo is probable. If that's the right Victor. I could be completely wrong about the Victor, so let me know. Don Juan said, NBA has been brutal for always one jack off from doing very well. Oh, man, I'm sorry about that, Don Juan. It always sucks when you're in like those losing streaks. It's just tough to kind of get out of them. Alex is saying, love mid-sized slates better than 13 gamers than 2 gamers. Yes. I'm a sucker for the 2 or 3 gamers. I love them. But I would take a mid-sized slate over a gigantic slate every day. Even though this year, oddly enough, I've been doing well on the large slates. So I don't know. I don't even know what this word is sometimes anymore. It's kind of like the things that we used to believe are kind of not as true anymore. It's just odd. But I guess maybe I just like all slates now. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully this slate goes well. That's all that really matters. This slate. So yeah, that's pretty much the Pacers for me. Like I said, not super excited, like trying to force exposure to them, but there's some interesting pieces. Similar story on the Miami Heat side when it comes to like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. The rest of them, like Hero, Lowry, Strus, Martin, Benedict Mathurin, and Jalen Smith on like the Pacers side of things. Those guys are going to be more GPP plays for me that just let the domination station rule my fate. Miles Turner, I have loved this season. He's been so good. And I would love to see him get traded, but I don't think that needs to happen anymore because this team is looking promising, like long term. So that doesn't matter. But Miles Turner is always an interesting GPP play, but I don't love the matchup against Bam Adebayo. So I don't foresee me having a ton of exposure to him, but again, I'm not going to over tinker with it. If the domination station gives me some exposure, I'm fine with it, but he's not going to be a core player or anything like that for me today. All right, guys. Next up, we have the Atlanta Hawks at the Memphis Grizzlies. The Hawks, they have John Collins out, huge. DeJounte Murray is out still, and that's also gigantic news. The thing that I want to keep a very, very close eye on is Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's returned. He's been here for like I think 2 games, and apparently he was on a minutes limit. But he's been playing. He's averaged 34.6 minutes in the last 2 games. So that's definitely impacted Young, Hunter, Griffin, all of them, just because Bogdanovic at times when he's shooting well can perform very, very, very well. So it would be nice if Bogdanovic sits on a back-to-back. For those of you that don't know, he had surgery on his knee, and so that's why he was out for most of the season earlier, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't play tonight. And that would definitely make me like the Hawks a lot more. Like I would want more exposure to Trae Young, like just really Johnson, AJ Griffin, all of the starters, I would just want more exposure to. Even with Bogdanovic playing, he's still interesting. If he does play, he has a 30.4% usage rate with John Collins and Murray off the floor. So he's definitely a viable play. Trae Young has a 41.8% usage rate. I know he's been a little volatile as of late, but I have absolutely no issues going back to the well on Trae Young here. So rule of thumb with the Hawks for me tonight is if Bogdanovic is out, I like the Hawks players a lot more, and I'm going to have more exposure to them in a spot that I already like them in. If he plays, then I'll probably focus more so on Trae Young, Bogdanovic, maybe AJ Griffin. Like he's close to a value play at this point, but we'll see. DeAndre Hunter's a little bit too cheap for this spot as well. So definitely some viable pieces, even if Bogdanovic does play, but so much more interesting if he doesn't. All right. On the other side of this game, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, where we have quite a few questionable guys that matter a lot. Ja Morant is questionable. I think you already know how huge of a deal that is. Steven Adams is questionable. Right away, I think you notice that really if Ja Morant or Steven Adams, either one, both, whatever, the guy that benefits the absolute most is Jaren Jackson Jr. And I really want to play him even if they're healthy, but if they're out, automatic leverage play for me. Like it's not even a question. I love Jaren Jackson Jr. I think this is a great spot for him. He's only 7,100. Golden spot. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about the other Memphis Grizzlies too. Of course, Ja Morant is in play if he's healthy. The Hawks have been pretty good against point guards so far this season defensively, one of the better teams, but I'm not sure how much that has to do with DeJounte Murray's presence. So I'm not as afraid of playing point guards against the Hawks as I normally am. Outside of that, like Jaren Jackson Jr. is really my guy. Dylan Brooks can be looked at as well. I think that's probably pretty much the vast majority of where I'll go. So yeah, it really just depends on injury news here for that game, but definitely an interesting one for sure. All right, next up we have the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Dallas Mavericks. So let's talk about Saturday. Actually, I just remembered this. My lines were looking so good on Saturday. I even had my core plays on the cheat sheet, and it was looking like a fantastic night. We might take something down. But my last core spot had Jason Tatum in it. And for those of you who watch pretty consistently, you guys know I don't love playing guys against the Dallas Mavericks because the Dallas Mavericks play at a relatively slow pace, and I don't like playing studs against them. And so I broke that rule, and I made Tatum a core play, and he ruined a lot of my lines. Like, it just really destroyed probably a takedown night. So I'm still trying to get over that a little bit. Thomas Dye said, will Ja be a potential leverage play? If he's healthy, he could be. He could be. He could be. But I'm not too high on him right now. Right now, I'm really preferring John not playing so I can make Jaren Jackson Jr. a leverage play, just because I feel more strongly about that. All right, guys. In this Thunder Mavericks game, we have Kenrich Williams out. No one else is really that important for the Thunder. On the Mavericks side, we have Luka Doncic probable, which means he'll probably play. Josh Green is still out. Maxi Kleba is questionable. Davis Bertans is questionable. So, like I said, I'm going to SGA actually looks solid in this spot. I don't think he's a bad play. I just see him as a GPP play. So if the domination station wants to give me like 1 to 3 to 5%, I'm fine. I don't foresee me trying to get leverage on SGA here. Again, just because I don't like playing guys against the Mavericks. Um, so I don't really foresee myself having a ton of exposure to these guys, but a little bit is fine. Josh Giddey has been performing well, mostly because he's been getting more of those like peripheral stats. Like he's been getting more rebounds. He's just been getting more points from other resources outside of just having to score a ton. It's nice knowing that upside is still there. So I think you can still consider him from like a GPP standpoint. And at 7,300, I'm fine with the price tag. So an interesting spot. Lou Dort, I prefer to play on smaller slates. I'm not going to force it, though. I'm not going to do anything there. Christian Wood performed well in his last time out. But honestly, guys, primarily, these Maverick guys are just GPP plays for me. I don't think I'm going to touch them a ton. Luka Doncic, I'm just going to kind of see how much exposure I have to him and then go from there. So we'll talk about that more on the pre-lock show. I definitely want some exposure against the Thunder. They're just a really, really bad team. I don't see a world where I don't have any Luka Doncic exposure. But I don't have to. It's not a spot where I feel like I have to have leverage. I just know I need to have some exposure. So we'll make sure that we're good to go there from that standpoint on the pre-lock show. Thomas said, didn't the Celtics play the Warriors Saturday? You might be right. You could be right. My memory is so bad, man. So bad. Fade them all for goodness sake. Down one. Gotta love it. All right. Next up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Spurs. And pretty much for this, with the Cavs, we have another piece of big news with Donovan Mitchell being questionable. He's been out for a while, and Darius Garland has been underperforming in these spots. But you have to have a short-term memory, which thankfully I have, as proven. My memory is not great. So I don't care that Darius Garland hasn't been playing well and that he hasn't been performing in these fantastic spots. He has another great matchup against the Spurs. And if Donovan Mitchell's out, I'm more than happy to eat the chalk on Darius Garland tonight. If Donovan Mitchell plays, again, the matchup is so soft that I'm totally fine doing badly against I'm totally fine going back to Garland and Mitchell. Yeah, okay, guys. So it was against the Warriors on Saturday. I don't know why I thought it was the Mavericks. I guess Luka was out on Saturday, so that must be why I was thinking about him. But yeah, Tatum disappointed. That's the moral of the story. Tatum disappointed. Satron might be back tonight. He was at shoot around. Interesting for sure. Levert, yeah. So Donovan Mitchell's questionable. Kevin Love is questionable. Mamadi Diakite is out. Dean Wade is out. Still Windler's out. Rubio, they're all out. So the guys that have been seeing the biggest increase in usage with Mitchell out has been Evan Mobley with a 3% increase and Karis LeVert with a 7.5% increase. So with that being said, Karis LeVert has had some nice games with Donovan Mitchell out. If Donovan Mitchell's out, I would assume that Karis LeVert would be the guy that becomes the chalk once again. With that being said, I really do think we can attack the Spurs from all angles. I have some interest in Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. I already talked about Garland and Mitchell. I have quite a bit of interest. I'm going to kind of see how the news breaks out before I really finalize what I want to do with this team. But if their ownership stays this low, a Cleveland Cavalier or two will be leverage plays just because it just makes too much sense against the Spurs team. That's been really bad. On the other side of things, Spurs, Jermaine Sachan is questionable. Kenny G said that he was at shoot around. I haven't verified that yet. Keita Bates Diop is out. So definitely still an interesting team. I know Keldon Johnson has come through for us with some of the injury news that they've had. Jakob Poeltl is also still out. So some interesting pieces that we can look at still, like Charles Bassey and that whole center situation we've been playing around with for a while. Again, not situations that we have to force or make core plays, but there's still some positive interactions here that I'll probably have some exposure to here. But like Keldon Johnson, I don't see myself having a lot of exposure to. Devin Vassell, I don't plan on it. Trey Jones, not really. But the front court, just because of how cheap they are, I'm willing to take a little bit of exposure, have a little bit of exposure to them. I know they've hurt our feelings a lot over the last few weeks, but again, short-term memory, kind of have to have that. Thomas is saying Jaylen Brown's the answer. We'll see. We'll see. All right, next up we have the Portland Trail Blazers against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are still missing Karl Anthony Towns. Jordan McLaughlin is doubtful, so definitely some big pieces still there. The guys that are leading this team in usage with Cat out, no surprise here. Anthony Edwards at 25.8%, D'Angelo Russell at 24.7%, and Rudy Gobert at 21.6%. So all of these guys are in pretty solid spots with Cat out. The issue is that the Trailblazers have actually been a decent team defensively so far this season, so we're not really getting a soft matchup for them, but there's still upside for the prices that they have. Also, the Portland Trailblazers tend to play at a nice pace and keep games close, so I still like having some exposure to teams that are facing them. So guys like Anthony Edwards stand out for me as a potential leverage play. We'll see if potentially D'Angelo Russell, but these D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert are going to be popular tonight, so they're not going to be leverage plays. I guess potentially core plays. That feels like a little bit too much. So we'll see what the DS is doing around that time. Slow-mo, he's been around. We have exposure to him some nights. They definitely, Kyle Anderson and Jaden McDaniels, they see a boost of Towns out. They're just pretty volatile guys that I don't tend to focus on too much. Damian Lillard has been on fire. I'm glad we were on him pretty early. Another potential leverage play for him because he's just always overlooked. Damian Lillard is always overlooked. I'll have to dig deeper to see if this is a night that I really want to go heavy on him just because we have a lot of options on this slate, even though it's not the biggest slate in the world. But definitely an interesting spot for sure. Anthony Simons is still a little bit too expensive for me at 8,100. He's always a solid contrarian GPP play that you can consider to be different, hoping he has higher upside. But I'm not a fan of playing Simons when Lillard is healthy. But you guys know if Lillard goes down, Simons will be one of the first guy I go to. Thomas is saying, please no slow-mo. Yeah, like I feel like I haven't really played a lot of slow-mo over the last few days, which is kind of weird. Maybe I think I've had like more Noel and things of that sort, but I usually just let the DS decide what it wants to do with guys like that. And if it's too high, which it seems like it might be today, I might lower it a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. This is still a long time before slate kicks off. Nurkic has also been playing very well as of late. He's had at least 41 DraftKings points in 2 out of his last 4 games. So definitely he's been performing pretty well. A tough matchup against Rudy Gobert for sure, but I'm not really too concerned. He's not someone that I'm loving tonight, but he's definitely still viable. Outside of that, like Josh Hart and Jeremy Grant are guys we can always look at from like a GPP perspective as well, but honestly, there's no one that I'm loving as of right now. All right, guys, last game on the slate. And it's at 10:30. Pretty late. So this is another one where it's just 2 solid defensive teams in my mind. We have Robert Williams out, Al Horford out. Pretty big news. The Clippers, Powell's out. Nothing too major. So we'll start with the Clippers. Paul George has actually been in solid form as of late. He's been looking pretty good, even with Kawhi Leonard out there. the opposite is not true. Kawhi Leonard has not been looking as good. And at the 7,000 price tag, that doesn't sound that expensive, but that's actually somehow still too expensive for how not bad, but just not great he's been playing. Um, it looks like he's still going to carry some ownership tonight. I don't hate it. I just don't foresee myself forcing it. Tatum and Brown, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, have also been performing well as of late outside of Tatum, who hurt my feelings on Saturday. Kenny G said Tatum night tonight. Take it to the bank. Guys, you guys always try to hype me up on these plays. I'm definitely going to dig deeper into Tatum and Brown while I'm doing research to see if there's some way I can talk myself into doing it. I do think there's always some merit in going back to the guys that hurt you. So, like, if Tatum hurt me on Saturday, he's not expected to be very popular today. I'm usually always okay with taking a shot like that. So I would never talk someone out of it. I just don't know if that's what I'm going to do yet. So I'll need to dig a little bit deeper into it to figure it out for myself. But he's definitely a strong play today, along with Jaylen Brown and Paul George. I think Brogdon, Smart, those guys I prefer to play more so when White or Smart or Brogdon are out. When they're all healthy, I'm less interested in it. Again, the Clippers have been a pretty good defensive team this year, so not a spot I'm trying to force. Grant Williams could be interesting here, especially if he's back in the starting lineup over Blake Griffin with Al Horford out. So that spot is interesting for sure. For sure. And then Zubac is always a GPP option, but not one that I foresee having a ton of exposure to. With John Wall healthy, Reggie Jackson healthy, I'm not planning on having exposure or much exposure to either. If I had to choose one, it would be John Wall because he has the higher usage rate. Also, when John Wall plays, I'm always just less interested in these Clippers guys because they all have a lot of usage. So yeah, guys, that's the slate in a nutshell. Definitely some things that we still need to dig a little bit deeper into. I'll have all that done by the pre-lock show. Again, that's for VIP members. If you want to become a DFS Army member, definitely click the link in the description. Feel free to use the promo code BOB for a 10% discount. I know Thomas is saying, just like Kyrie, he hurt us for a while, but he came through. Exactly. And it doesn't always work out this way, but typically, at least for me, like if I'm following a guy, I'm not locking that guy in. So I'm still having some positive lines. And then by the time that guy goes off, I'm making up for some of the losses that he gave me. So I really don't like to overthink things sometimes. Totally not the FBI said I'm late. Is it just me or the 7 to 8 game slate's the sweet spot? We talked about it earlier. I know a lot of people love them. I used to think like 3 gamers were my sweet spots. Now I've been doing pretty well in the large slates too. It's weird. I don't know anymore. I think that's just the truth. It's like I don't know. Kenny G said Tatum going for 70 points tonight. We'll see, man. We'll see. Don't tempt me with a good time. All right, guys. But hey, I appreciate all of you guys for watching. Definitely do tune in for the pre-lock show. Look forward to seeing everyone back for that. And then hopefully we get it. Good luck, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to seeing y'all later. Peace.